the local herbs, which can be seen as a form of a substitute to the pharmaceutical industry. Well, it's quite unique.
Yeah. You think do you think the pharmaceutical industry, the products are unique? So if someone is selling, let's say AstraZeneca is selling.
So AstraZeneca, you've gone for, let's say, paracetamol, for headache. Yeah. We have local herbs which can also claim that they can also cure headache or,
okay.
Yeah. So apart from some generic products, there are certain higher things that is more or less unique to the pharmaceutical industry.
But are the herbal products part of the pharmaceutical industry? Maybe I'm missing this. I don't know.
No, they are not. They are not. I'm sure they undergo a different kind of.
They have some name for them. They have some name for them, but I might be wrong on this. So, in terms of uniqueness, I think the uniqueness would show a lot more in the brand name because it's a very, very scientific environment, right? If someone is making a COVID vaccine, literally, you are mixing certain chemicals to come up with a vaccine. And it's quite similar from company to company. It's quite similar from company to company. At least that's what I think. That's what I think. So I don't know what you guys were thinking though. But in terms of threats of substitute products, we are told here that there's intense competition. And so the threat is most likely high. When you pick bargaining power of suppliers, bargaining power of suppliers, we are not told much about suppliers. True or false? Are we told a lot of...
Yeah, we're told something about the suppliers that was Edwin. Edwin has a good relationship with the suppliers. So
yeah, I'm talking about their bargaining power. Do we know? Do we know? Do we have that information? Maybe I might have missed it. So just let me know.
So please come again.
Yeah, I was just wondering, in terms of the bargaining power of suppliers, do we have information on it? Maybe I might be wrong. I didn't see too much when it comes to the bargaining power of suppliers. Do you think that their bargaining power of suppliers will be high or low?
Hello.
Yes.
So I think the bargaining power, because the industry has a lot of, it's fragmented, so there are a lot of companies within the industry. The bargaining power is very high. So yes, they can shift to different producers of the pharmaceutical products.
Oh, okay. They can be made to what?
They can shift to different producers of the pharmaceutical product.
They as in who can shift? The customer?
The supplier. Because there are a lot of pharmaceutical companies within the industry. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they can switch to
Okay, so do you think the bargaining power will be high or low then?
I think it will be high for the suppliers.
Okay, so basically the point you are making is that it's most likely that in this industry, from what we are seeing, that there are a lot of competitors compared to the number of suppliers. Right?
I'm looking at it in the sense that And we have the pharmaceutical companies and the clients of the pharmaceutical companies. So I'm looking at the suppliers pharmaceutical companies within the looking at it. And since there are a lot of pharmaceutical industry, the suppliers should have bargaining power.
Okay, so when we say bargaining power of suppliers, what do we mean? Are these the people who are supplying to SBL or the pharmaceutical companies in the industry? What do you guys think? So when you say bargaining power of suppliers, these are the people who are supplying to SBL. Now, the Porter's Five Forces framework, this is a framework on competition. So we are looking at all these things as forces of competition and its impact on SBL, right? Does that make sense? Okay. And we have bargaining power of buyers. We know that individual buyers generally cannot significantly influence prices. Generally, that's the case. If you are if you have individual buyers, they cannot influence prices generally. But if they are institutional buyers, then they can have some effect on price. I have threat of new entrants as well. We are told that this is a huge industry. It's growing, and so you would have people wanting to come in. You'd have people wanting to come in. That's what keeps on increasing the competition. Then rivalry among existing competitors. We are told about the intense competition in this industry. Now, when you look at the SWOT, there are a lot of things that came off as strengths. Though the founder has tremendous experience, possible good supplier relationships or long-term relationships. Weaknesses, some board members have little or no pharmaceutical experience. Another weakness is low cash position, right? In terms of opportunities, we know that the booming pharmaceutical industry is an opportunity. A possible threat could be the intensity of the competition. Then you have other models like the balance scorecard as well. The balance scorecard. So the balance scorecard, you have financial objectives, the customer objective, you have the internal processes, you have the organizational capacities. So one of the things I wanted to mention here is that don't be surprised if they ask you a question around internal processes and they bring a question around internal controls. That this is where those who are taking audits, they might have an advantage. But don't be surprised at all. They can pose a question around internal controls. You can pose a question around internal controls. What are some of the internal controls that has to be in place to ensure that SBL has smooth processes, internal processes? That's a decent question, right? A very decent question. So that's around internal processes. And you have organizational capacity. You have customer objectives. You have financial objectives. They can ask questions around these four objectives or these four perspectives. Is it clear or any questions? Okay. Then you have the ANSOF's matrix, BCG growth matrix. as well, which, we discussed in terms of the models. You have the Porter's value chain analysis too. The Porter's value chain analysis. So here, you are looking at your inbound logistics, you are looking at your operations, outbound logistics. I would want you to take your time to go through these models. It's very, very likely that any of them could show up. Any of them. Now, what are some of the likely questions? What are some of the likely questions? Does anyone have any questions for me? I'm seeing that you guys are getting tired. Any questions? Any questions for me? Can you hear me, please? What's going on?
No questions.
Okay. When you look at some of the likely questions, one of them is, does it make sense for SBL to have a manufacturing division? Now, this is an example. Do they have to manufacture their own drugs? Is it likely they might give some financials on divisional performance to assess this, especially when it is very expensive to purchase and maintain manufacturing plants? So I'm just asking, is it likely they might give some financials on divisional performance to assess this? Another thing is on pricing. One of the things we identified when we were going through the case was pricing. We saw that, the customers who had joined SBL or who had purchased from SBL recently, had issues with pricing. So what are some of the pricing strategies? Could use value-based, could use penetration pricing, cost plus. Could talk about possible pricing strategies that could be used. Now, we already talked about ratios, so I didn't want to go into that. Now, what are some of the ethical issues? Ethical issues, because this is pharmaceuticals and it involves or pertains around the lives of people. This is also a possibility. It's also a possibility. Okay. So use a framework to explain your answer. I remember we've discussed before ethical frameworks. Ethical frameworks. Do you need me to go through that again?
Yes, please.
Does everyone need me to go through that? Otherwise, because we've discussed it in class before.
Yes, sir.
So please go through.
Okay. Okay, so let me jump that because it will take some time. Then we have calculate a reasonable profit forecast, which we attempted doing when we are doing the financial analysis. What are the corporate governance issues facing SBO? The case will give us more into that, but one of the things is, the board mix and the board balance and how the board has been structured. And, the inclusion of non-executive directors. The inclusion of non-executive directors. Another thing is around HR, human resource. And under the balance scorecard, this is the learning and growth part. So one of the things I'll ask myself is, do we need a resource alignment? Do we need to align the resources what I mean by aligning resources is, do we need to move resources from one division to another? You know, from one division to another. So people have been asking me, okay, so how people have been asking me, so how what are some of the things you consider? What are some of the things you consider when you are looking at shutting down a division? When you shut down a division, it means that the employees would have to go. And so what would this have on staff morale? What would this have on staff morale? That's something you need to think about. What would this have on staff morale? Right? And what are some of the technologies that what do you call it? SBL can use to distribute their products. So that's where one of my brothers were talking about drones and other things like that. These are typical questions that typical questions that is possible that it might show up. It might show up. So let's go back to the ethical framework. The ethical framework. I'd recommend that November, please go through the past questions as well, because this looks like, when I look at the case, it looks like November 2019 to me. The way they've structured the whole, case and all that and Preseen, it looks like November 2019 to me. So I'd go through that. I'd go through that. So when I say November 2019, sitting, the exam, November 2019 sitting. So I'll go through that. Okay, now let's go to the ethical framework. If they tell you to use an ethical framework, one of them that I like to use very, very much is the TACKES model. TUCKER, TACKES model. TACKES model. And the TACKES model, I've made it very simple so that everyone can remember. Everyone can remember. I've used a simple acronym, just in case you forget. I've used a simple acronym. Right? I've used a simple acronym. So for those who like football, it might come easy to you. But if you don't like football, you can find your way. So I said REF, which is REF, which stands for referee, REF. And then PL, which stands for Premier League, REF in a PL. So that's the model. Now, what is R? R simply means, is it right? This is the ethical framework. Is it right? What is E? E is it environmentally sound? What is F? F is it fair? What is P? P is it profitable? What is L? Is it legal? So that's the framework you use. You answer yes to those questions and you come, you make an ethical decision based on your responses. I hope that makes sense. Very simple model. Is it right? Is it environmentally sound? Is it fair? Is it profitable? Is it legal? REF, PL. I mean, you can structure it however you want to. Is it right? Environmentally sound, fair, profitable, legal? So that brings us to the end of today's discussion. I don't know if do you have any questions for me? I'll definitely send all the documents to you. It has a lot more detail. So if you have any questions for me, just let me know. Any questions for me?
No, sir. I'm okay.
Okay. It looks like there are no questions, so we'll just call it a day. Thank you very much for joining. And I wish you the very, very best in your exam. My final tips would be just go through the 3 recordings we've done. Go through the materials that I'll share after. Then go through past questions. Go through past questions. If you do that, you should be way ahead. You should get 50+1. And that's all that matters. Thank you, and I wish you the best. In case you have any questions, you can message me privately. I'm always available to help. Somebody message me. Okay, Priscilla, welcome. Thank you for listening to. I just tried to put in my best, even though. So thank you very much. And in case you have any questions, just let me know. Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Hello? Sorry.
Yes.
Will we have access to this document?
Oh yeah, sure. I'll put it on the group.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.